The morning sun had just started to warm the quiet suburban street. Birds chirped lazily, and a soft breeze moved through the trees carrying the faint scent of freshly cut grass. On the corner of the street, under a large shady tree, a small lemonade stand sat on the sidewalk. It was simple but bright, painted in cheerful yellow with hand-drawn lemons and little signs that read, "Fresh lemonade, only $1." The stand was the result of weeks of planning and saving, and it belonged to a young girl named Lily. Lily was about 10 years old, but she had a determination far beyond her years. Her hair was tied back in a neat ponytail, and her hands were slightly sticky from squeezing lemons the night before. She had been saving up for months to buy a new bicycle, and this lemonade stand was her biggest project yet. She wanted it to succeed, not just for the money but to prove to herself that she could do something on her own. As she adjusted her little sign to make it more visible, she looked around the street. Most of the neighbors were still indoors enjoying their breakfasts or slowly starting their day. Occasionally, a passerby would notice the stand, smile, and nod. Lily greeted each one with a friendly, "Good morning. Want some lemonade?" And her voice carried the excitement of someone who truly believed in what she was doing. By mid-morning, a few customers had stopped. A couple of elderly neighbors bought cups, complimenting her on how bright and cheerful the stand looked. A mother with a toddler paused for a quick drink, and Lily handed it over carefully, making sure the cup didn't spill. Each sale felt like a small victory, and Lily's confidence grew a little more with every smile and thank you. She was proud not just of the lemonade she made, but of the fact that she had set up something entirely on her own. The street was peaceful, almost too peaceful. Lily enjoyed the quiet, letting her mind wander as she poured a fresh cup of lemonade. She imagined herself riding her new bike through the neighborhood, feeling free and accomplished. But just as she was about to take a deep breath of the warm morning air, a loud rumbling sound cut through the calm. At first, Lily thought it was a truck or a lawnmower, but the noise grew louder and sharper. The vibration of the engine made her lemonade cups shake on the stand. Turning her head, she saw it, a large motorcycle barreling down the street, the rider dressed entirely in black leather, with a helmet reflecting the sunlight. The engine growled like a beast as it slowed to a stop just a few feet away from her stand. Lily's heart raced. She had seen bikers before, of course, but they usually rode past quietly, waving at people on the sidewalk. This one seemed different. The biker dismounted, the boots hitting the pavement with a heavy thud, and he removed his helmet. His hair was messy, his expression sharp, and his eyes were cold. He looked around, sizing up everything in a way that made Lily's stomach twist. He leaned on his bike, folding his arms, and gave Lily a slow, sneering smile. "Well, what do we have here?" he said, his voice low and rough. "A little girl selling lemonade on the street? You really think anyone's going to buy from you?" Lily swallowed hard. She felt a flicker of fear, but she tried to hide it behind a polite smile. "It's fresh lemonade. Only $1 a cup," she said, her voice steady even though her hands shook slightly. The biker chuckled, a sound that made Lily's knees feel weak. He stepped closer, almost leaning over the stand. "You're too young to be running a business. Why don't you go play with your toys or something? This isn't for kids like you." Lily took a small step back, clutching a cup tightly in her hands. She wanted to tell him to leave, but the words felt stuck in her throat. She didn't want to cry, not in front of him. She had faced small challenges before, school projects, difficult math problems, learning how to make the perfect lemonade. But this felt bigger than anything she had dealt with. She had never been scared like this before, standing alone in front of someone who seemed much bigger and stronger. "Please, sir, I'm just trying to sell lemonade," she said carefully, hoping her politeness would make him go away. The biker laughed again, a harsh, mocking sound. "Sell lemonade? Ha! You think you can compete with real people out here? You're nothing but a kid with a stand." He reached out and knocked over one of the little signs, sending it clattering to the ground. Lily's eyes widened and she bent down quickly to pick it up, making sure it didn't break. As she stood back up, clutching the sign, she felt a rush of frustration mixed with fear. She didn't want to run away, but she didn't know what else to do. Her small stand, her dream of saving up for the bike, and her pride all felt threatened. Every fiber of her being told her to stay strong, but her mind raced with doubt. Just as the biker started to lean closer, preparing to say something more threatening, a new presence appeared behind him. Lily hadn't noticed at first because she was so focused on him, But now she sensed it. A calm, commanding presence that didn't belong to the neighborhood. The man was tall, broad, and carried himself with an effortless confidence. He wasn't shouting or making any moves, but there was something in the way he stood that made the biker pause, as if he suddenly felt the weight of someone watching him. The man didn't look angry, not at all, but his gaze was sharp, and it seemed to reach right through the biker's bravado. Lily's fear didn't vanish entirely, but it shifted into a strange mix of relief and curiosity. She had no idea who this man was, but just seeing him there made her feel a little safer. The biker, on the other hand, seemed to realize that he wasn't the only one in control anymore. He straightened up, trying to maintain his tough image. But there was a subtle hesitation in his movements now. The man didn't speak immediately. He simply stepped forward slowly, as if measuring the situation. His presence alone was enough to make the biker rethink his next move. Lily could see it in the biker's eyes, a flicker of uncertainty, the first crack in his confident, intimidating facade. For Lily, that moment was like a small spark of hope. She straightened up a little herself, taking a deep breath. She realized that maybe she wasn't entirely alone in this. Maybe, just maybe, she had someone on her side, even if she didn't yet know his name. The biker finally muttered something under his breath, a mixture of irritation and disbelief. He looked at the man behind him and then back at Lily, unsure of what to do next. Lily didn't speak, didn't move. She just stood behind her lemonade stand, clutching her cup and sign, feeling a strange sense of courage growing inside her. The air felt heavier now, charged with anticipation. Passers-by who had been walking by began to slow down, sensing the tension but not understanding what was happening. Lily focused on the man behind the biker, feeling a quiet reassurance. She didn't need to fight him off herself. Maybe this time someone else would step in, someone who could handle this. And in that quiet, sunlit moment, Lily realized something important. She had come to the corner that morning with hopes of selling lemonade and buying a bike, but she was learning a bigger lesson. Sometimes courage didn't mean fighting alone. Sometimes it meant standing your ground while waiting for the right kind of help to arrive. The biker adjusted his jacket, clearly trying to act casual, but the tension in his posture betrayed him. Lily felt a mix of fear and pride. She had stood her ground, had faced someone bigger and meaner than her, and hadn't run away. The encounter wasn't over yet, but she knew that something had shifted. The morning sun shone a little brighter, and the street seemed a little less intimidating. Lily smiled faintly, holding her lemonade cup tightly. She wasn't sure what would happen next, but she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't going to let fear control her. Not today, not ever. And as the sound of the motorcycle's engine faded into the distance, she felt a small, steady confidence growing inside her. This was just the beginning of a day she would never forget. A day when she learned what courage really looked like, and how even the smallest person could make a difference when they refused to back down. The street returned to a faint hum after the biker's loud motorcycle engine faded, but the tension still lingered like a shadow over Lily's lemonade stand. Her hands were still slightly trembling as she straightened the sign and poured a fresh cup of lemonade, her mind racing. The encounter had shaken her, and yet there was a strange sense of pride bubbling inside her. She had faced someone bigger, meaner, and more intimidating than herself, and she hadn't run away. But the sense of calm didn't last long. Almost as if he had been waiting for the perfect moment, the biker turned his motorcycle around and came back, roaring down the street like a thunderclap. Lily's heart sank. She tried to steady herself, gripping the lemonade pitcher tightly. She reminded herself that she had handled him once before, but this time he looked angrier. His leather jacket creaked as he swung off his bike, and his eyes glinted with irritation. He leaned down over the stand again, his shadow falling over the little table like a storm cloud. "I told you, little girl," he said, his voice low and rough. "You don't belong here. This street isn't for kids like you. Give up already." He knocked over a few cups carelessly, making Lily flinch. Each action, each word was designed to make her feel small and powerless. For a moment, Lily froze. She felt the fear rush through her like a cold wind. She had never been treated like this before, and it was frightening to feel so small in someone else's presence. But then she remembered something her mother had told her. Courage isn't about not being scared, it's about facing your fear, even when it's overwhelming. Taking a deep breath, Lily lifted her chin, trying to meet the biker's gaze with as much steadiness as she could muster. "Sir," she said, her voice shaking just a little. "I'm just trying to sell lemonade. I'm not bothering anyone." The biker laughed, a harsh, mocking sound that made Lily's stomach twist. "You're bothering me," he said. "And everyone else around here, too. You think selling lemonade is going to make you anything?" Lily wanted to argue, to tell him that she was working hard for her own goals, that she had dreams just like anyone else. But the words felt trapped. She realized that sometimes courage isn't about arguing back, it's about standing your ground and hoping someone else will notice when things go wrong. That's when she noticed movement out of the corner of her eye. At first, she thought it was just a passerby, another neighbor casually walking down the street. But there was something different about this man. He didn't rush or glare. He didn't yell or make sudden movements. He simply walked slowly, almost casually, as if he had all the time in the world. Yet there was a weight to him, a quiet power that made even the biker pause mid-step. Lily's stomach dropped when she realized who it was. It was Dwayne Johnson, unmistakable even from a distance. He was dressed casually, just walking down the street. But there was something in the way he carried himself that made the biker hesitate. Dwayne's eyes were sharp, calm, and fixed on the scene unfolding before him. The biker turned slightly, pretending not to notice, but Lily could see the flicker of uncertainty in his expression. He had been so confident just moments ago, so sure that he could intimidate a little girl. But now something had changed. He was no longer the only person in charge of the situation. Dwayne Johnson walked closer, his movements relaxed but deliberate. There was no aggression in his steps, yet his presence alone commanded attention. Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her. Suddenly, she didn't feel so small or alone. Someone was here who could protect her. Someone who could make the bully think twice before doing anything rash. The biker tried to act tough, adjusting his jacket and leaning on his bike. "Who's this?" he muttered under his breath. "Some guy trying to play hero?" Dwayne didn't respond immediately. He simply stopped a few feet away from the biker, letting his calm presence speak louder than any words could. Lily could feel the biker's bravado start to crumble. He glanced at her, then back at Dwayne, clearly unsure of what to do next. For Lily, the moment was strange but comforting. She had spent the morning feeling scared, but now, seeing Dwayne standing there, she felt a surge of courage. She straightened up a little more, gripping the lemonade pitcher tightly and preparing herself to continue her work. The presence of someone strong and fair made her realize that she didn't have to face every challenge alone. The biker finally muttered something under his breath, a mixture of irritation and disbelief. He tried to pretend he was in control, but the tension in his posture betrayed him. His knees bent slightly as he shifted his weight, his eyes darting toward Dwayne, then back at Lily. It was clear that he was reconsidering his actions. Dwayne finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Hey," he said just one word, yet it carried the kind of authority that made the biker pause completely. The biker blinked, realizing he couldn't rely on fear and aggression anymore. The quiet confidence in Dwayne's tone was far more powerful than shouting or threatening. Lily watched, amazed, as the scene shifted. The biker's face lost some of its smugness. He took a step back, unsure of whether he should continue. Lily's heart raced, but now it was mixed with hope. She realized that courage could come in many forms. Sometimes it wasn't about yelling or fighting. Sometimes it was simply being there for someone else, quietly, but firmly. Dwayne didn't need to raise his voice or make any grand gestures. His presence alone changed everything. The biker muttered something about leaving, and Lily felt a small thrill of relief. She hadn't moved. She hadn't run. And now, with someone who could help her, she could continue standing her ground. The street around them began to settle. Neighbors who had peeked out of their windows returned to their homes, and the few passers-by who had paused started walking again, sensing that the tension had eased. Lily took a deep breath, feeling the sun on her face. The moment had been scary, yes, but it had also been a lesson she would never forget. Lily looked at Dwayne and noticed the small, reassuring smile he gave her. It wasn't a showy grin or anything dramatic. It was quiet, understanding, the kind of smile that said, "You did well." Her fear melted into a mixture of pride and gratitude. She realized that courage wasn't about fighting everyone by yourself. It was about standing tall when you could, and accepting help when it came in the right way. The biker, sensing that he had lost the moment, finally swung back onto his motorcycle. His engine roared again, but this time it was different. There was no longer a threat in the sound, just a man retreating, trying to save face as he drove away down the street. Lily watched him go, her chest heaving with relief and excitement. For the first time that morning, she felt truly safe. She glanced at Dwayne, who gave her a nod of approval. "Keep going," he said simply. "You're doing great." Lily smiled, feeling her confidence grow. She poured herself a fresh cup of lemonade, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that this morning had started as just another ordinary day, with hopes of selling lemonade and saving up for a bike. But now it had become so much more. She had learned about courage, resilience, and the unexpected ways that help can arrive. The morning sun felt warmer, the breeze lighter, and the street around her brighter. Lily returned to her stand, greeting customers with her usual cheerful voice. Each cup of lemonade felt like a small victory, not just for the money she was earning, but for the confidence she had gained. She noticed the smiles of neighbors who had seen the encounter, their admiration clear in their eyes. She realized that standing up, even when it was scary, inspired others in ways she hadn't expected. As she served another cup, she thought about what had just happened. She didn't know how long Dwayne would stay, but it didn't matter. The lesson was already hers. Fear could be faced, challenges could be overcome, and even a small person could make a big difference when they refused to back down. By the time the sun climbed higher, Lily had sold more lemonade than she ever had before. Her lemonade stand wasn't just a small business now. It was a symbol of courage, determination, and the power of unexpected support. And in that moment, Lily realized that sometimes the ordinary moments of life could teach the most extraordinary lessons. She looked down at her stand, the pitcher half empty, the cups lined up neatly, and smiled. Today had been scary, yes, but it had also been unforgettable, and she knew, deep in her heart, that she was ready for whatever came next. The quiet of the morning had returned to the street, but Lily could feel the tension lingering in the air like a heavy fog. She straightened the little lemonade sign, wiped her hands on her apron, and tried to pour herself another cup. But her mind wasn't on the lemonade anymore. Her thoughts kept returning to the biker who had roared down the street twice now, trying to intimidate her. She had faced fear once and stood her ground, but she knew that the real test was yet to come. The biker wasn't gone for long. Just when Lily began to relax slightly, she heard the familiar roar of the engine again. Her heart skipped a beat. This time the biker wasn't just passing by, he was stopping. The engine growled and echoed against the houses, making the cups on the table tremble slightly. Lily took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She had faced him before, but now he looked angrier, more determined to scare her. He swung his leg over the motorcycle, landing heavily on the pavement, and walked toward her with a swagger that tried to disguise his growing uncertainty. His eyes were cold and his smile was sharp, like a predator who thought he had the upper hand. "You think you can just stand here and sell lemonade without anyone stopping you?" he asked. His voice was low and threatening, and Lily could feel the vibrations from the words hitting her chest. She took a small step back, gripping the lemonade pitcher tightly. She didn't want to show fear, but it was hard not to. She tried to find the right word, something that would make him leave without escalating the situation further. "I'm not bothering anyone," she said softly. "I just want to sell lemonade." The biker laughed harshly. "Sell lemonade? You're a little kid. You don't belong here. Get out of my way." He leaned closer, his hand brushing over one of the cups on the table, almost knocking it over. Lily flinched but held on to her pitcher. She refused to let him see her tremble. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed movement behind him. She had been so focused on the biker that she hadn't realized someone was approaching. But now it was clear. A tall figure, calm and confident, was walking slowly toward the stand. Every step seemed deliberate, measured, and quiet. Yet there was a strength in the way he moved that made the biker hesitate. It was Dwayne Johnson. Even casually dressed, he had a presence that was impossible to ignore. Lily's heart lifted. She didn't know exactly what he was going to do, but somehow, just seeing him there gave her courage. She straightened her back and held her head a little higher, ready to face whatever happened next. The biker noticed Dwayne as well. For the first time, he faltered. His confident posture wavered and a flicker of doubt crossed his face. He tried to hide it with a shrug and a scoff. but it was clear that the man behind him had already changed the dynamic of the situation. The biker had counted on fear and intimidation to control Lily, but now he had to deal with someone far more imposing than himself. Dwayne didn't rush or yell. He simply stopped a few feet away from the biker, his gaze steady and calm. There was no aggression in his stance, no sign of anger. Yet the biker could feel the weight of authority in his presence. Lily watched silently, her fingers tightening around the lemonade pitcher, but her fear had shifted into hope. The biker finally spoke, trying to act casual. "Who are you supposed to be?" he muttered, glancing at Dwayne. "Some guy trying to play hero?" Dwayne didn't reply immediately. He simply took a slow step forward, and the biker instinctively stepped back. There was no shout, no threat, just a quiet certainty in Dwayne's movements that made the biker realize he was no longer in control. Lily could see the biker's confidence cracking piece by piece. Lily felt a surge of courage herself. She had been scared, yes, but she had not backed down. And now, with Dwayne there, she could feel that she had support. She could stand her ground, knowing that the situation was no longer just about her alone. The man behind her, tall, calm, and strong, was making sure that the biker couldn't take advantage of her. The biker tried to recover his bravado, crossing his arms and giving a half smile that didn't reach his eyes. He shifted from foot to foot, clearly unsure of what to do next. "I wasn't going to hurt anyone," he muttered, almost as if he were talking to himself, trying to justify his actions. "I was just having some fun." But the tension in his body betrayed him. He wasn't having fun. He had expected to scare a little girl and assert some power over the street. Instead, he had been confronted, and now he had no choice but to retreat. Dwayne Johnson remained silent, letting the biker's own hesitation do the talking. Lily could feel her own heartbeat slowing a little as she watched the scene. She realized that courage sometimes came in unexpected forms. It wasn't just yelling or fighting. Sometimes it was the calm presence of someone who believed in fairness and in standing up for what was right. Sometimes courage meant standing your ground while waiting for the right kind of help to arrive. The biker took a step back, then another. His hand lingered near his jacket as if he were considering making some last move to assert dominance, but he didn't. He finally muttered, "Whatever," and swung back onto his motorcycle. The engine roared to life, but this time it was different. There was no threat, no intimidation. It was the sound of retreat. Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had been scared, yes, but she had survived. She had faced someone who had tried to make her feel small, and she had not run away. The street seemed brighter now, the morning sun warmer and the gentle breeze softer. For the first time in hours, she could breathe easily. Dwayne Johnson knelt slightly to meet her at eye level. "You did really well," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Standing up to someone like that isn't easy. Most kids would have run, but you stayed strong. That takes courage." Lily felt a small smile tug at her lips. She had expected someone to fight or yell. But the calm way Dwayne handled the situation had taught her something important. Courage wasn't about fighting with your fists. It wasn't about shouting louder than someone else. It was about standing tall, being brave, and knowing when to accept support. The moment had changed her. Her lemonade stand was no longer just about saving money for a bike. It was about proving to herself that she could face fear and handle challenges no matter how big they seemed. The morning's events had taught her that even a small person could make a difference when they refused to back down. Neighbors began to peek out of their windows again, noticing that the tension had dissipated. Some even stepped outside to congratulate Lily, offering kind words and smiles. They had seen the confrontation and were impressed by her bravery. Lily felt proud. Not just for standing up to the biker, but for staying calm and confident in the middle of a frightening situation. Dwayne stood, smiling warmly at Lily. "Keep going," he said simply. "You're doing great." Lily nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She poured herself a fresh cup of lemonade, ready to continue serving the neighbors who stopped by. Each cup felt like a victory, not just for the money she earned, but for the confidence and courage she had gained. The street was quiet again, the morning sun high in the sky, and Lily could feel that she had changed. She had faced fear, had stood up for herself, and had learned that help could come in unexpected ways. Courage, she realized, could be quiet and calm, just like Dwayne had been. It didn't need to be loud or dramatic, it just needed to be real. As she served another customer, Lily noticed the smiles of the neighbors who had witnessed the encounter. Their admiration was clear, and it made her feel even stronger. She realized that by standing up and staying calm, she had inspired others too. Courage was contagious in a way, spreading quietly through those who saw it. By late morning, Lily had sold more lemonade than she ever had before. Her small stand was no longer just a lemonade business. It had become a symbol of bravery, resilience, and standing up for what is right. And even though the biker had left, the lesson lingered. Fear could be faced, challenges could be overcome, and even someone small could make a big difference. Lily looked at her lemonade cups lined up neatly, the pitcher half empty, and smiled. She had faced her fear, had stood tall, and had learned a lesson she would never forget. Today had started as a simple morning, but it had become an unforgettable day of courage, hope, and unexpected support. She knew that no matter what challenges came next, she was ready to face them. And she understood in a way she hadn't before that courage wasn't about being the biggest or the strongest. It was about standing up, staying calm, and believing in yourself, even when the world tried to make you feel small. After the biker had finally driven away, a calm settled over the street. Lily's hands were still slightly shaking, but the tension that had weighed so heavily on her moments ago had lifted. She stood behind her lemonade stand, taking a deep breath and letting the sunlight warm her face. The morning had started so normally, with the simple hope of selling lemonade and saving up for a bicycle, and now it had become a day she would never forget. Dwayne Johnson stood a few feet away, watching quietly. His presence was reassuring, steadying. He didn't rush to speak or make a fuss. Instead, he simply observed, letting Lily regain her composure at her own pace. Lily felt a strange mixture of gratitude and pride. She had survived something that had seemed impossible, and she hadn't run. She had stood her ground. Finally, Dwayne walked closer. His steps were calm, measured, but there was an unmistakable weight to his presence. He knelt slightly to meet Lily at eye level, smiling warmly. "You did really well," he said. His voice was gentle but confident, the kind of tone that makes you feel safe immediately. Most kids would have run the moment he started yelling or trying to scare them. But you stayed. That takes courage. Lily's fingers tightened around the lemonade pitcher. She had never been praised for bravery in this way before, and the words felt powerful. I was scared," she admitted quietly, her voice small but honest. Dwayne nodded. "Of course you were. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about facing your fear even when it's really frightening. And you did exactly that. You stood tall. You didn't let him control you. That's something to be proud of." Lily smiled faintly, feeling a sense of warmth spread through her chest. She realized that courage didn't mean shouting back or hitting someone. It could be quiet. It could be standing your ground with calm and strength. And sometimes it meant letting someone help you when you couldn't handle the situation alone. Dwayne stood and gestured toward the little lemonade stand. "You know," he said, "what you're doing here isn't just about lemonade. It's about learning something bigger. It's about learning to believe in yourself, even when others try to put you down. That's a lesson most people never fully learn, and you're learning it now at your age." Lily looked around at the stand. It felt different now, not just a small table with cups of lemonade, but a place that symbolized her courage, determination, and hard work. She had poured so much effort into this little project, and now it represented something far more important. It was a testament to her bravery. The neighbors began to come out of their homes, some cautiously, some with curiosity, noticing the change in atmosphere. They had witnessed part of the confrontation and could see that Lily had faced someone far bigger and meaner than her. Their smiles and encouraging words made her heart swell with pride. She realized that her courage had inspired others as well. One of the neighbors, an older woman who often stopped by Lily's stand, approached and said, "You were amazing, sweetie. I don't know many adults who could have stood up like that. You're a very brave young lady." Lily felt a mixture of happiness and humility. She had done something remarkable, and the recognition made her feel even stronger. She poured another cup of lemonade for a passing jogger, her hands steady now, and greeted them with a confident, cheerful voice. "Good morning. Fresh lemonade for $1. Dwayne watched silently, satisfied. He knew that the real victory wasn't just in the biker leaving, but in Lily learning something important. Bravery, self-respect, and resilience were lessons she would carry forever. He walked a few steps closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You've got a big heart and you've got courage. Remember that no matter what happens in the future. It's not about size or strength. It's about standing up for yourself and doing what's right." Lily nodded, feeling the words settle in her mind. She realized that this lesson would stay with her far longer than any lemonade sale or new bicycle. She had learned that being small didn't mean being powerless. She had learned that fear could be faced and overcome, especially when you believed in yourself. And she had learned that help could come from unexpected places, sometimes when you needed it most. As the morning continued, Lily's lemonade stand became busier than ever. People who had heard about the confrontation wanted to support her, not just because they liked lemonade, but because they admired her bravery. Each sale felt like a little victory, reinforcing her confidence and determination. She laughed and smiled with her customers, sharing small jokes and stories about the lemons and her plans for the bike she was saving for. Dwayne stayed nearby, watching quietly. He didn't need to intervene anymore. His presence had already taught a lesson far greater than words could explain. Lily was learning to stand strong, and she was doing it well. He could see the pride in her posture, the confidence in her smile, and the spark of determination in her eyes. The biker was long gone now, but the impact of the morning lingered. The neighborhood felt different, brighter somehow, as if courage had left a mark on everyone who witnessed it. Lily's lemonade stand wasn't just a table with cups of juice anymore. It had become a place of inspiration, a symbol of standing up for oneself and facing challenges head-on. Lily glanced at the little sign she had made herself. It seemed to shine in the sunlight as if acknowledging her courage. She realized that this was more than just a small business project. It was a lesson in resilience, bravery, and believing in oneself. She had faced fear, and she had won, not through anger or shouting, but through calm strength and determination. As the day went on, Lily felt a growing sense of pride and accomplishment. She knew that she would remember this day forever, not because of the lemonade she sold, but because of the courage she had discovered within herself. She understood that real strength wasn't about being the biggest or the loudest. It was about standing tall, staying calm, and doing what's right even when it was hard. By noon, Lily had sold almost all of her lemonade. Her pitcher was nearly empty, and the cups were lined up neatly, waiting for the last few customers. She felt satisfied, not just because of the sales, but because of what she had learned and accomplished. She had faced a challenge, stood her ground, and learned a lesson that would stay with her forever. Dwayne approached one last time before leaving, smiling warmly. "Keep believing in yourself," he said. "You've got what it takes to face anything that comes your way. And remember, courage doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you keep going even when you are." Lily nodded, feeling a sense of warmth and gratitude. She had learned something invaluable that day. She had learned that fear could be faced, challenges could be overcome, and support could come from unexpected places. She had learned that even someone small could make a difference when they stood tall and refused to back down. The sun continued to shine. The breeze carried the faint scent of lemons and fresh grass, and the street felt alive with possibility. Lily smiled to herself, feeling stronger and more confident than she ever had before. She poured the last cup of lemonade and handed it to a passing neighbor, saying cheerfully, "Here you go, last one for today." As she packed up the stand and counted her earnings, Lily realized that the morning had changed her in ways she could never have imagined. She had faced fear, stood her ground, and learned a lesson that no money could buy. She had discovered a courage inside herself that she hadn't known existed, and she knew that it would stay with her for the rest of her life. The street was quiet again, but it felt different now. Lily walked home slowly, feeling proud and accomplished. Her lemonade stand had been more than just a small business. It had been a place where she had discovered her own strength, faced fear, and learned the true meaning of courage. And she knew that no matter what challenges came her way in the future, she had the power to face them head-on. The day had grown warmer, the sun now high in the sky, casting golden light across the quiet suburban street. Lily's lemonade stand, which had started the morning as a simple little project, now carried an entirely different meaning. It was no longer just about selling lemonade or saving for a bicycle. It had become a symbol of courage, resilience, and the small victories that made life feel meaningful. Lily wiped her hands on her apron and adjusted the little sign again, making sure it was perfectly visible. She had already sold most of her lemonade. But the experience of the morning had left her feeling full of pride and confidence. She glanced around the street, noticing the neighbors who now smiled at her with admiration. Some of them whispered to each other, pointing at her stand, clearly impressed by what had just unfolded. The memory of the biker still lingered in her mind. She could recall the way he had tried to scare her, leaning over the table and mocking her small lemonade stand. She could feel the rush of fear she had experienced, the way her stomach had twisted and her hands had trembled. But now looking back, it seemed almost surreal. She had faced that fear. She had stood her ground. She had refused to let someone bigger and meaner dictate her actions. Dwayne Johnson, who had been watching from a distance earlier, returned briefly to check on her. He didn't come with a grand entrance or loud gestures. He simply walked up with the calm confidence that had already impressed the biker. Kneeling slightly to meet her at eye level, he smiled warmly and said, "You've done something incredible today. You've shown courage, strength, and confidence. Remember this feeling because it's yours forever now. You can face anything that comes your way if you stay true to yourself." Lily nodded, her heart swelling with pride. She realized that courage wasn't always about being the strongest or the loudest. Sometimes it was about standing your ground, staying calm and letting your actions speak louder than words. And sometimes it was about accepting help when it came from the right person at the right time. She felt a deep gratitude for Dwayne, not just for stepping in, but for showing her what real courage looked like. As she served the last few cups of lemonade to neighbors and passers-by, Lily noticed something remarkable. People were no longer just buying lemonade because it tasted good. They were buying it because they admired her bravery. Each customer brought a smile, a word of encouragement, or a small gesture of respect. One little boy handed her a coin and said, "You're really brave. I hope I can be like you someday." Another neighbor said, "You taught us all a lesson today. Never underestimate anyone, no matter their size or age." Lily felt a mixture of pride, happiness, and humility. She had started the day simply wanting to sell lemonade and buy a bike, but she had ended it with something far more valuable: respect, recognition, and a deep understanding of her own strength. She realized that her actions had inspired others, and that was a feeling she had never experienced before. The street, which had once felt quiet and ordinary, now seemed alive with possibility. People who had witnessed the confrontation and Lily's bravery began sharing the story with their neighbors, spreading word of the little girl who had stood up to a bully with courage and calm determination. Lily couldn't help but smile at the thought. She had never imagined that her small lemonade stand could make such a difference, not just in her own life, but in the lives of everyone around her. Even after the biker had gone, the lesson of the morning stayed with Lily. She had learned that fear could be faced, that challenges could be overcome, and that help could come from unexpected places. She had learned that courage could be quiet and calm, and that standing tall was sometimes more powerful than fighting or shouting. These lessons, she realized, were far more valuable than any amount of money she could earn from her lemonade. Lily's parents arrived home from their errands and noticed the excitement and pride on her face. They listened carefully as she recounted the morning's events, the biker, the intimidation, and how Dwayne Johnson had stepped in. They were amazed, not just by the story itself, but by the way Lily had handled it. They hugged her tightly, telling her how proud they were of her bravery and resilience. Lily felt a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that bravery wasn't just about standing up to strangers. It was also about believing in yourself, trusting your instincts, and handling situations with calm and confidence. She knew that the lessons she had learned today would stay with her forever, shaping the way she approached challenges in the future.